All right. I know a little bit about this because I've been following some of it, but there's been so much that I have not been able to keep up completely. And like I said, I've thought about reacting to her before, but I've always wondered if even though I react to like Brandon Herrera, the fat electrician, I've always thought, do I really want to dive this deep into it? So many other VTubers I watch have reacted to this that I've said, you know what? VTubers that aren't otherwise political. I said, you know what? Screw it. It's my turn to react to everyone's favorite communist.
Donald Trump.
So, what Trump really destroyed? The dark truth behind USAID.
Donald Trump, along with Elon Musk, have created a new government agency called Doge. And what I originally thought was just an older sibling giving a younger sibling an unplugged video game controller actually turned into a real thing. And their first order of business was dismantling USAID, an innocent government program that helped poor people all around the world. Or was it?
Nope. I can tell you right now it's not.
Hello and welcome back to the ShoeOnHead channel. I am ShoeOnHead and I am not real. I am a figment of your imagination. You have been in a coma since 2012. Wake up. Wake up. Today
I hate that copy pasta.
we will be talking about the dark, seedy underbelly of USAID. This is a topic I've been interested in for a very long time now. And now that recently USAID has been in the news, I figured it is a perfect time to finally talk about it. All the mainstream liberal coverage I've seen of this has basically been late-night talk show hosts crying fake tears about it being dismantled, and all the mainstream Republican coverage has just been about all the woke shit USAID was apparently funding.
Most of the talk show hosts are being paid by it, so, you know.
But I promise you, it is more than that. A lot more. If you're not a very political person and you only come here to consume the Reddit gender war slop, you should still stick around for this because this gets juicy. And remember, even if you're not interested in politics, politics is interested in you.
Very
and trust
true.
me, I understand why some people aren't interested in politics. It's confusing, it's stressful, it's a lot to keep up with. I feel like 500 things happen every single day.
And that's how they like it, so that you will ignore it.
But thankfully, I have a tool to help with that.
Oh, here we go.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, this video is sponsored by USAID. Just kidding. This video is sponsored by Ground News. Let's quickly give them a shout out and then we will jump back into this deep dive,
I will
shall
one
we?
day use this with how much it's thrown
Ground
at
News is
people.
a website and an app that gives readers a fun and transparent way to read the news all across the political spectrum, from left, right, and center. Every story comes with a quick visual breakdown of political bias that helps you understand the full story and makes sure you're getting both sides. One of my favorite features of Ground News has to be the blind spot feature. It shows you news stories that have been covered by only one side of the political spectrum and ignored by the other side. For example, here is a story about how Elon Musk apparently pressured the Reddit CEO to moderate content on the site. Right away, we can see that the story has been covered by 12 sources. And out of these 12 sources, 75% lean left, and no right-wing sources have covered it. Ground News also makes it really easy to compare headlines to see how political bias or ownership can affect the framing of a story. For example, this right-wing headline about how Trump is taking executive action to make DC safe and beautiful, while this left-leaning headline frames the same story as Trump wants Washington, DC to be Berlin 1939. What? I've been using Ground News for 4 years now because it's great, I love it, and it really helps me see how both sides frame things so differently. Best of all, I am currently offering 40% off their Vantage plan, which is what I use to access all of their amazing features. This comes out to only $5 a month. That's like the price of a coffee, and it is so worth it. It is one of the first apps I check in the morning. It's great. So go to ground.news/shoe or use the QR code on screen right here, or use the link in the video description down below. Again, that is ground.news/shoe, or click the link down below. I think what they're doing is super important because it helps people approach the news in a more fair and balanced way, and I feel like we need that now more than ever. So thank you to Ground News for sponsoring this video, and thank you, the viewer, for not skipping the ad. Right? Now let's get back to
Up to, you better not be hiding, because you said there were things here. I'm serious. I shoulder some of the blame for what happened, so please, thank you. You have more than made up for it, and I really appreciate it.
this USAID deep dive, shall we?
Good.
So, Donald Trump and Elon Musk created the Department of Government Efficiency, aka DOGE. Get it? Like the Reddit meme from 2012? Epic bacon, my fellow memers. Honestly, who am I to talk about dead memes? My username is ShoeOnHead. So, DOGE's supposed goal seems to be cutting useless spending the government is making us pay taxes on. Now, I have very mixed feelings about taxes. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. Taxation is theft! The tree of liberty will be refreshed with the blood of tyrants! My opinion has always been, if we are going to pay taxes in this country, could they at least go to things that actually help people, like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, child tax credits, firefighters, fixing our bridges and roads, castrating pedophiles, government-funded girlfriends,
I like
things
that one.
And yes, we should be auditing the government. I think that's a good thing. Frankly, I don't care who does it as long as they do it well. Good things are good, bad things are bad. I'm anti-bad things, pro-good things. Those are my politics. And hating libertarians. Just kidding, I love libertarians. I get along great with them. As long as we don't talk about child labor. Anyway, Doge got straight to work, firing government workers and basically hiring my Twitter mutuals. What was once a theater kid-occupied government is now a right-wing schizo poster-occupied government. No, I am not joking.
So this is a 19-year-old high school graduate who has used the unfortunate nickname Big Balls online. So
All right. This is dumb, but at the same time, you can dig into anyone what they did in their high school age type group, high school college age group, and they will have done dumb stuff. Like really dumb stuff. Everyone's like that. The only difference is a lot of the older generations didn't have internet, so they do a much better job of trying to pretend like it didn't happen.
So that would be one way that we could refer to him. He is now working at Musk's behest inside Doge.
If you had told me 10 years ago that Donald Trump and Elon Musk would hire some Zoomer named Big Balls to help audit the government, I'd believe it. Like, yeah, that checks out. They have no relevant experience. Most of them aren't old enough to rent a car. They're not even old enough.
This is a thing with everyone in the older generation. Almost everyone. Certainly anyone with any kind of political say, because they have all the power and have benefited. They don't understand anything about how time has moved on. They still think it's the late 90s, early 2000s. I still regularly have to deal with people who think I should be in college. Or just left high school. Or maybe just got out of college. I'm in my 30s. But I'm a millennial. And there's still so many people in Clinton's age group, in particular, who think I'm some fresh out of high school kid who doesn't understand anything about the world. And it drives me nuts. Because they refuse to move on from, like I said, the 90s, early 2000s type mentality. And, you know, assign that same level of mental relevance to anyone who isn't part of their age group, or maybe like the immediate decade below them. To where, nope, I am still in my prime, I am still the adult, I am still telling every last one of you how you should think, because you're not old enough to think yet.
They're in their 20s. We sent
Hi, and
18-year-olds to go die in the wars you cheerlead on, you evil hag.
Yeah,
Why are they so
that
focused on
too.
the ages of these people when our government is basically a retirement home? But honestly, I don't blame Hillary Clinton. If I were her, I also wouldn't want 22-year-olds in the government. Months before...
Ugh. I almost choked on my throat lozenge. Wow. Holy crap. Shots fired. I'm not going to say that's a good excuse for Clinton, but why was that something to bring up? All right. We're going there.
2-year-olds in the government.
We're 5 minutes in.
Months before...
If you don't know, let's say that she was found under his desk while he was sitting at that, and move on.
Or dismantling the Department of Education, or apparently Sesame Street, Doge's first order of business was dismantling USAID.
Without providing any proof, Elon said USAID is a criminal organization.
Literally, we're sending food and money to the Taliban. Proof. There's proof that that's what they were doing.
Oh, yeah. They're an international crime syndicate hell-bent on helping people.
Pretty f***ed up, huh? Taking money away from an aid program that helps poor people all around the world. Except USAID was not exactly that. In fact, it doesn't even f***ing stand for aid. It stands for a United States Agency for International Development. It has f*** all to do with aid. But honestly, I don't blame you for thinking it does. After all, they do make the word aid a different color in the logo. Those sneaky bastards. Although it said USAID provides 42...
Yeah, the government does this all the time with naming something in a way that it comes across as sympathetic or benign, or redefining things that make sense or sound scary or whatever in order to get past what they really want. I'm going to list 2 examples. Now, they're not agencies and they're not laws, but these are relatively easy and simple examples to bring up. And I use them a lot. And I use them also because they're on both sides of the aisle. So you can see both sides do the exact same thing when it comes to this stuff. The first one is we're going to, and here comes my, here go. Well, it's not like I'm monetized on YouTube anyways. The first one is ghost guns, which were originally defined as a firearm manufactured privately in someone's home. That's if you have machining skills, a CNC machine, a 3D printer, 2 pipes and a nail. Yes, that can actually work. Please don't try it. That was a ghost gun. And they are a very small percentage of firearms out there. And almost non-existent in the criminal space because of they are difficult to and sometimes dangerous to the user to use if you don't do it right. It could be very, very fussy, even if you really know what you're doing. Take a lot of trial and error. Criminals simply don't have the patience or skill set to really make much use of it. Then, the term ghost gun was redefined to include any firearm that doesn't have a serial number on it. It is standard practice for criminals, and we know this because the FBI has said this repeatedly. It is standard practice for criminals to remove a serial number from a firearm because then you don't know who they stole it from or if someone went out and made a straw purchase for them. You know, someone without a criminal record goes out, buys a gun, and then gives it to someone with a criminal record. If there's no serial number, it is harder to trace that back. And so it is very, very common for criminals to do that in order to keep the rest of their connections together. Well, when they redefined ghost gun to include any firearm without a serial number, that was the year that we suddenly had a ghost gun epidemic in crisis. Because all these thousands of factory-made firearms that were made with serial numbers that had them removed were now considered ghost guns. And for the record, removing a serial number from a firearm is already a major felony. Before they added it to the ghost gun thing, it had already been a major felony for a long time. You do not remove serial numbers from firearms because that is a 25-year ticket. Okay? Next one. The war on drugs. Now, yes, we have a fentanyl problem, but note how long ago, 60s, 70s-ish, that we've had a drug epidemic. The drug epidemic started the year that marijuana and cannabis products were redefined to be major narcotics. What is it? I forget. Is it actually Schedule 1? Is that like the video game name? I forget off the top of my head. But the United States did not have a major drug epidemic. Until cannabis, marijuana, weed, whatever you want to call it, was redefined from basically being completely unregulated to being a Schedule 1. And suddenly, and by the way, it was also the preferred recreational activity for most anti-government protesters, because this is the era of the hippies, the very far leftists. Mostly very far leftists. And it was redefined to be Schedule 1. And suddenly, it's a massive epidemic, and the government needs all kinds of new resources for a war on drugs that just so happens to be arresting all these people that have been protesting against the government. This is standard practice. This is nothing new. All right, back to the actual video. I want to point out that for those of you shocked that AID does not spell aid, you shouldn't be shocked.
2% of global aid? The truth is, most of those funds are just spent paying US contractors and secretly conducting regime change all around the world. In fact, 80% of all USAID funding goes to just 75 organizations, while only 6% of that goes to aid. And by auditing USAID, Doge exposed the true
And there's serious questions of that remaining 6%.
real puppet masters behind the secret cabal of evil masterminds funding the woke ideology spreading all around the globe. You. Yes, it was you, American taxpayer. Turns out the deep state was the friends we made along the way. And yes, it's true, we are spending billions of dollars in our tax money to fund things like teaching Sri Lankan journalists how to avoid binary gendered language, combating disinformation in Kazakhstan, promoting inclusion in Vietnam, millions to an Armenian
Reminder that disinformation is anything the government decides it doesn't like. What kind of things do you think Kazakhstan doesn't like?
LGBT group, millions to rebuild the Cuban media.
I'm pretty sure LGBTQ plus people are like, you go into an asylum type category in Armenia. And why is the United States giving money to Cuba?
Ecosystem, millions for LGBT causes in the Western Balkans, millions for LGBT activism in Uganda, millions for atheism in Nepal, millions for male circumcision around the world, and $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala. And many other things that were so ridiculous I had to double check to make sure I wasn't being trolled. Taxpayer-funded sex changes in Guatemala? We don't even do that here! Now, you might be saying, Shoo, this seems like some stupid anti-woke shit. And yeah, kind of. You got me. But I ask you, young naive liberal, why the f*** was John Bolton once the head of USAID? John Bolton, for those of you who are unaware, is an infamous neocon hack. He's literally criticized Trump for not being enough of a warmonger. Neocon hacks, for those same few of you who are unaware, are the people in our
big profiteer off of war.
Government responsible for meddling with other countries all around the world and getting us into wars for basically funsies. The people who suck the teat of Raytheon, Boeing, etc. The military-industrial complex's favorite Discord kittens. These guys come in shades of red and blue. So why was John Bolton, a red guy, in charge of the same program, USAID, that is sending American taxpayer money to foreign countries to have things like trans pride parades? The truth is, the USAID thing goes a lot deeper than what a lot of Republican commentators are saying. It wasn't just a bunch of libtards in government wasting our money on stupid woke things. No, there's way more than that. You see, it's current year and we can't just do old-fashioned imperialism anymore. The people don't like that. It's a new era, so we have to dress it up in glitter and rainbows. To put it bluntly, USAID is nothing but another form of taxpayer-funded regime change, wearing an innocent mask of aid. Shut up, Shoo! You dumb bimbo populist! You reactionary shitlord! You cry, tears running down your fat, retarded face. The United States is just giving foreign countries billions of dollars out of the kindness of their hearts! Oh yeah? I have a lovely bridge on sale down the road. Would you like to buy it? Listen, despite all its faults, I love America, and I love the American people. But if you believe the corrupt, greedy bureaucrats running the deep state of this country do anything out of the kindness of their hearts, you are a sweet, innocent angel, and you need to be protected at all costs. I especially side-eye any leftist who has the nerve to run defense for USAID, especially those who call themselves socialists or commies, considering the fact that USAID was basically originally created to destroy communist countries all around the world. Established in 1961 by President John F. Kennedy under the noble guise of aiding developing nations, USAID was, in many respects, an instrument during the Cold War to counter Soviet influence and keep the Third World from crafting its own socioeconomic model. A year after President John Kennedy created USAID in 1961, he told its directors that, as we do not want to send American troops to a great many areas where freedom may be under attack, we send you. It wasn't long before the CIA spotted an opportunity to extend its reach.
Which the CIA will always spot an opportunity to extend its reach.
1962, USAID launched its Office of Public Safety to send agents around the world under the guise of training police officers. But as it turned out, the trainers were busy teaching enhanced interrogation techniques, a euphemism for torture. The scandal broke out in 1966, and although the office was finally shut down in 1974, the dark practices persisted within military and intelligence circles. By
We have had such scandals as recently as like 2 years ago, I think. So, yeah, just pointing out, it's not done.
In 1980, USAID Administrator John Gilligan was candid enough to describe the agency as nothing more than a graduate school for the CIA. At one time, many aid field offices were infiltrated from top to bottom with CIA people, he said. It was pretty well known in the agency who they were and what they were up to. The idea was to plant operatives in every kind of activity we had overseas, government, volunteer, religious, every kind. USAID was quickly nicknamed the CIA's little sister. Oh, and here is John Bolton.
Alright, thanks for sticking with it for so long. Rest well, Rippy.
Holding a trophy given to him by USAID in the shape of a hand grenade. Yeah, nothing to see here, folks. So let's talk about Zun Zaneo, shall we? Sit down. I love this story. Taken directly from Wikipedia, Zunzaneo was an online social networking and microblogging service created by the United States Agency for International Development, aka USAID, and marketed to Cuban users. It was covertly developed as a long-term strategy to encourage Cuban youths to revolt against the nation's government. The developers aimed to use non-controversial content, such as sports and music, to build up subscribers and then to slowly introduce political messages through social bots to encourage dissent in an astroturfing initiative. So basically, USAID created a fake-ass social media platform in Cuba.
I'm not gonna name names, but there's a bunch of streamers and content creators who said they might have to quit or start begging for money. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Who said they might have to quit or start begging for money after USAID shut down. Like, immediately. Some of them even directly attributed it to USAID shutting down, to my knowledge, without saying why.
With our tax dollars, flooded it with bot content about like sports and music and whatever, just to make it seem normal, then slowly started to manipulate the users and create political division on the app between Cuban citizens in order to create political chaos in this country and a potential uprising. So yeah, how dare we take money away from those starving undercover agents? To make things even more sus, the money we spent on Zunzaneo was publicly documented as an unnamed project in Pakistan. Yes, this fake-ass social media psyop they created in Cuba was documented by our government as being a project in Pakistan.
What did I tell you? Constantly mislabel this stuff. Change definitions, make it seem innocuous. Not tell people why suddenly something is or isn't a problem.
Now, think of all the other weird shit USAID was supposedly funding. Those sex changes in Guatemala. Were they really sex changes in Guatemala? Or were they some covert psyop being done somewhere else in the world?
Didn't the trans theater group end up being some undercover operation that like, it was barely in the news before they moved on? Where it was like they never put on a single performance and no one even knew who the people were.
I guess we'll never know now. Using social media to divide the masses and create political division. You don't think... No. They wouldn't do that. I mean, it's kind of weird they asked the former founder of Twitter to help with this project, but no. They would only do social media psyops in other countries, right? Right? In March 2024, a document was exposed that revealed USAID was running covert psyops all around the internet in order to combat populist misinformation about the government on Twitch, Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, and 4chan. Although its internal justification was halting the flow of mis- and disinformation, it seemed particularly concerned with malinformation, a concept it defines as speech that is factually correct but misleading, i.e., bothersome truths the US government would prefer the public does not know.
What did I just say? What did I just say?
USAID suggests directing the public toward mainstream corporate sources of information and psychologically inoculating them against inconvenient facts.
What did I just say? They want you to be sick of it and done and just not care.
That challenge US power by pre-bunking information before people see it. Pre-bunking includes discrediting the brand, the credibility, and reputation of those making false allegations. In other words, a state-directed attack against alternative media and critics of the US government. So basically, USAID was funding a bunch of dorks to go all around social media and be like, source? Every time someone criticizes the government. This is somehow more pathetic than when I used to use an alt account to defend myself on BreadTube subreddits. That is basically what our government was doing. Also, I like how this implies the people you called a Fed online might have actually been a Fed. There is a chance.
I saw multiple news articles, like news articles, both written and on freaking TV, talking about the need for pre-bunking information to put out the truth before things happened. That only lasted for like a week before they were rightfully questioned about that by a lot of different people, and very quickly shut up and tried to get people to forget about it.
That you may have fought with a federal agent, a USAID federal agent on Twitter or 4chan. This also implies that like streamers and social media influencers may have been funded by USAID. But who? Who among us? Who would be willing to unquestionably, enthusiastically suck establishment cock that hard?
For all the bad stuff America does around the world, USAID was just an organization that did a lot of nice things. Like it put a lot of money into efforts to help people in a variety of ways, like both materially and culturally. It's just like a nice way for the United States to have a positive presence around the world.
For the record, I do not actually believe Destiny is being funded by USAID. I just thought that transition was funny. I fucking love that quote though. USAID was just a nice organization that did a lot of nice things, like culturally help people around the world. Culturally help people? Why are we in the business of cultural imperialism? Why do we have to culturally enrich Latin America or the fucking Balkans? So not only are we the world police, but we are now the world HR department? No thank you. Why are we spending billions of dollars doing fuck-ass shit in other countries while ours crumbles? I don't care about teaching gender studies to Ugandans. The pothole in front of my house hasn't been filled in 3 years. These are my taxes, and I believe my taxes should go to help people in my country. I don't think that's controversial to say. And I know many conservatives agree with me. I'll always hear them say, we can't be spending money in Ukraine. We have to take care of our own. And then they just don't take care of their own. Because that's socialism or communism or something.
Yeah.
Listen, do you actually want to take care of your own? Do you actually want your taxes to go towards helping the poor and sick and families in this country? Are you actually America first, or are you corpos and foreign countries first? I'm more than happy to work with you on good things to fix this country. But I don't think the establishment GOP is.
I at least get to say that I voted for several local measures that do involve actually keeping taxes local to fix things in this past election. So, yay.
You don't want able-bodied workers on a program that is intended, for example, for single mothers with 2 small children who's just trying to make it. That's what Medicaid is for, not for 29-year-old males sitting on their couches playing video games. We're going to find those guys and we're going to send them back to work.
First of all,
It's always the video games. All right. NFL canceled. AFL canceled. NBA, WNBA, World Cup. World Series. All of it gone. Because you know what video games are? Entertainment. You know what professional sports are? Entertainment. All that stuff. No more money. Free. No advertising. Let's see how long it lasts. They have to get real jobs out in the workforce. Your favorite football player isn't allowed to play football anymore. You got to get a job out there and play football on the weekend. Can't be a professional entertainer anymore. Gone. Same for actors, actresses. Because Hollywood's nothing but entertainment. They got to get real jobs. Broadway, which, has been held up as one of the pinnacles of, like, real, proper, upper-class entertainment. Nope, gone. I am so sick of this crap over video games. Just because it's not the entertainment you grew up with. I don't actually think about that about those other entertainment types, even if I don't personally watch. It's just That is the literal apples to apples comparison. Video games are nothing but actual entertainment. It just so happens to not be the entertainment these old farts grew up with.
Medicaid is for anyone who needs it, period. And second of all, 29-year-old guys? You mean your fucking voter base? You mean the very demographic that is shifting the entire country in your direction?
Yeah.
Those guys? Yeah, we're just wasting so much money helping young men. Those greedy gamers just gobbling up all the tax money. Not massive tax cuts to corporations and the rich. Not all the money to the bloated military-industrial complex. No. Gamers. Young men who can't find a job, can't afford a house, can't afford college. Young men who can't build a family because of the society you created. Those guys, they need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
That's been such a thing as well, is the fact that the people that make these attacks and throw all these insults out, they're the ones that ruined everything. As mentioned in the Atari reading of all things, taking us off the gold standard was a really bad idea. Now, unlike a lot of people, I don't think we're going to be able to pull that back. I think that ship's long sailed. But every society that ever moved to a fiat money system, the money system collapsed without fail. The only ones that haven't collapsed are the ones that currently exist, that are currently in the process of collapsing, like all their predecessors. And most of them are doing it way faster than their predecessors.
And pay for their own Medicare. This care isn't for them, it's for women. What? Great to know both
That's not the only thing they screwed up. That was an easy one since we just had something mention it.
sides of the establishment fucking hate young men. Anyway, sorry, I popped off. Let's get back on topic. Now, USAID did do some good things, I won't deny that. But even some of the good things USAID did were nothing but a bunch of fronts. Using Cuba as an example again, because these are some of the only ones that have been exposed so far, there was a USAID program called the Travelers Project that was said to be an HIV prevention workshop. But yet again, it was nothing but another covert regime change psyop. This was exposed in 2014 by the Associated Press. Young Venezuelans and Peruvians were deployed by USAID to Cuba's college campuses for $5.41 an hour. Really, USAID? Billions of dollars force feminizing mice and you can't even pay your spies a living wage? Sad. Anyway, they were used to recruit college students into political organizations with the goal of turning them against their government. The goal of, once again, creating political division. In the exposed memos about this, USAID called their HIV workshop the, quote, perfect excuse. Right. But we're totally funding DEI in Vietnam for pure humanitarian reasons, I'm sure. This was done so sloppily that even our boy John Bolton came out and disavowed it, but not without saying he thought it was a good idea in principle. Yes, it's a great idea to create taxpayer-funded secret psyops all over the world in order to fuck with other countries' politics. Just don't recruit teenagers to do it next time, okay? What? I honestly just think it's kind of fun.
I got another one, and I know because my parents sent me the initial article complaining about several million tons in food that was going to sit and rot because it was frozen in port, because the freeze wouldn't let it leave port to go where it was going. And they were talking about how it was so awful that it wasn't going to, I don't even remember what nation they said it was going to. The reality, which I sent to my parents who didn't believe me, even though it came from the actual government documents and the releases, is it was going to the Taliban. Not even as like a government that will pretend to distribute it to the people. Just to the Taliban.
Funny, we were funding anti-socialist agendas all around the world and disguising it as social progressivism. Don't think too hard about that one. Now, Cuba wasn't the only place USAID was culturally helping. On January 12, 2010, a 7.0 magnitude earthquake struck Haiti, killing 220,000 people, injuring another 300,000.
Haiti was a mess before whatever's about to happen.
and leaving 1.5 million more homeless. In the wake of the catastrophe, the United States provided 1.6 billion in reconstruction funding to Haiti, 651 million of which went to USAID. Rather than employing Haitian construction companies, USAID contracted out the rebuilding projects to international firms. For instance, Minnesota-based construction firm Thor was awarded 18 million in contracts, and Mexico-based firm Cimex received over 7 million. But by far the largest recipient of USAID funding in Haiti was Washington, D.C. based contractor Chimera International, who received over 200 million to carry out a total of 141 projects. In fact, USAID awarded more money to Chimera than to the entire Haitian government in the wake of the earthquake. An audit conducted on Chimera revealed that the company had a tendency to not finish jobs, evaluated its own project on arbitrary criteria, not having to do anything with the project, and failed to set timelines, causing some projects to fall behind schedule.
I've had to deal with companies that do this, and it is a nightmare every time. I absolutely hate it.
In one case, Chimera was contracted to build Haiti's new parliament building, but what they constructed came out half-finished and unusable. The company only built the framework of the building, not even erecting interior walls to divide office spaces, nor did they bother to furnish the building. Left with this, the Haitian government was forced to draw $775,000 from its public treasury to complete the project. Despite these disastrous results, Chimera to this day remains USAID's top contractor. The construction company was awarded $506.4 million in contracts in 2021 alone. In a leaked email exposed by WikiLeaks, they described this tragedy as a gold rush, ensuring that it would be great for international companies. Seems like the only thing they are culturally helping is their own wallets, am I right? And you know how you always hear about how poor people are in Venezuela and how the politicians are so rich and live in luxury? Yeah, part of that has to do with USAID. Billions of dollars of aid we sent to Venezuela just lined the pockets of US-backed politicians there. Only 2% of the aid we sent to Venezuela actually went to help Venezuelans. So at this point, the whole
2% sounds like a really high number compared to some of these. Also, Venezuela. Again, I thought we didn't like their government.
world was basically sick of USAID's bullshit. In 2013, Bolivian President Evo Morales expelled USAID officials from his country on the grounds that the agency had conspired against his government by allegedly manipulating social movements in the country. He also charged that a previous USAID program that sought to help cocoa farms switch to new crops was politically motivated. Russia expelled the agency in 2012 for similar reasons. Its foreign ministry argued in a statement that USAID attempts to influence political processes through its grants. And in February, Kenyan Cabinet Secretary Francis Kimimya claimed that his government had evidence that USAID had hired activists to organize anti-government protests in Nairobi in an effort to topple the government. Oh, and if you're wondering why so many news outlets and journalists were freaking out over the
here we go.
shutdown of USAID, yeah, it's probably because it's where their paychecks were coming from. Yeah, apparently USAID was funding about 6,200 journalists and 707 news outlets all across the world. Not even just America. For example, the editor-in-chief of a Ukrainian news outlet wrote that destroying USAID was a greater threat to Ukrainian journalism than the Russian invasion. What? There were independent...
Yeah, it's real interesting how many independent journalist organizations, including a ton here in the US, basically said that they'd have to shut down with USAID's closure. And before anyone starts about the need for funding independent journalism or anything like that, when a government agency funds you, there is no way to then be able to tell them no or say anything bad about them because you are dependent on that funding. And frequently, once they have the funding in, they are going to be keeping a very close eye on you to where even if on paper they're saying, yeah, sure, you can be independent and say whatever you want, in reality, there's always going to be someone sitting there checking your work going, you're really sure that that's what you want to say? Is that how you want to phrase it? Is that Is that really what path you want to go down? That could be a problem. I mean, that could affect your funding. If that program has problems, it might need extra funding, and that's got to come from somewhere.
Outlets shutting down everywhere, including Russia after the USAID freeze. So we were apparently funding media in both Ukraine and Russia.
I'm playing both sides so that I always come out on top.
Serbia, Moldova, all across Latin America, independent outlets shutting down everywhere. All because the little sister of the CIA can't pay no mo. So I have a question. Why the f were we funding media in all these other countries? Well, the CEO for the Center of Investigative Reporting, a USAID-supported Bosnian media organization, said it best. Quote, "If you are funded by the US government, there are certain topics that you would simply not go after, because the US government has its interests that are above all else." Oh, I guess that answers my question. USAID is also ridden with other scandals, such as covering up a child sex abuse ring in Kenya, kidnapping and torturing people in Uruguay, forced sterilizing 300,000 Peruvian women, and the famous one you all know.
I wonder what that sounds like. That sounds like eugenics, doesn't it? Wonder who else does eugenics. We should look into that.
In Uruguay, forced sterilizing 300,000 Peruvian women, and the famous one you all know, funding drug production in Afghanistan. Oopsie poopsies, we did little fucky wuckies. Now think about all the other shit that hasn't been exposed. These aren't mistakes, these aren't flukes, these aren't little fucky wuckies. This is what this program was set out to do. This is why it was created. We were quite literally funding Globo Homo as a sneaky way to do regime change and American intervention. Or do you think we're spending $1 million in Nepal to promote atheism because Hinduism is such a threat? You're cute. The United States won't sleep until there's an ugly progress flag hanging on a Starbucks on every corner of every street all over the world from Latin America to the Middle East. Ah yes, the greatest American exports, butt, sex, and war. There are a shit ton of old left-wing articles you can find online spanning back to like 2010, even earlier, about how evil USAID is. Now suddenly liberals are acting like it's another fucking beacon of democracy that we have to cry and piss and shit about just because it's Trump getting rid of it. Frankly, I don't care. If they start dismantling things that I do care about, things that do actually help the American people, then I will care. Expose where the trillions of dollars we spent on the Iraq war went next, please. Or, you know, actually release the Epstein files.
They're probably gone. Given the office that held them, and then withheld them and didn't even say they were withholding them, they're probably long destroyed. They just don't exist anymore, most likely. I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm just saying that is probably what happened.
Cut USAID because they're our great comrade in arms, cutting off the tentacles of American imperialism. No. Trump probably just cut it because he thought it was a woke, gay waste of money, and it was. But as far as I'm concerned, every article written about how bad dismantling it was written by John Bolton himself. Like the president of Colombia said, "Take your money with you. It's poison." All the sources I used in this video and all the information I got for this video will be in links down below. Feel free to do your own research as always. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing. A lot of you aren't subscribed apparently. You just watch and fuck off. I will find you. Also, this video is most likely going to be demonetized, so if you can and if you want to, please donate to me on Patreon, link down below. It helps the channel so much, and I appreciate it. And I will see you next time with a less serious, more fun video.
Unlikely, given the stuff she normally makes. Even though not for the US, yeah. I mean, and frequently the crap that the US gets up to affects other nations, anyways. So it's worth keeping an eye on.
Fucking hate Hillary Clinton.
Oh boy, I'm not gonna go down that particular rabbit hole. There's something going on with my pick link that is not showing correctly on... I wonder why that didn't send. Let's try here. There's the link to the original video in the chat. It should also be down in the descriptions of the different videos. I think the only reason why I am not more openly outraged about that is not because I just spent 3 hours continuously talking about Atari, but because of the fact that I just had already followed so much USAID stuff that, as infuriating as much of it is, I don't have that knee-jerk outrage because I already know and am outraged about it. And I've had a chance to sort of internalize and understand the issues that it has and the need to do something about it, I guess, is the... I hope that that's making sense. Just like, I can't be super surprised by something that legitimately isn't surprising, unfortunately. Still, a very good breakdown from Shue. I know several people. I'm going to try really, really hard to get to watch this to understand what I have been trying to explain. It's like she put all her sources down in the description so they're there, because I am not organized enough to keep all of it on hand every time I need to go here, 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 here. Please, this is not fake. So that's a whole thing, though, and it is unbelievably infuriating when you really get down to it. I guess I've taken the plunge now, so I'm going to look into what other ShoeOnHead things I haven't personally watched that I could react to. Since now it's like, well, I did one. I'm now on that blacklist. But yeah, that's ShoeOnHead, everyone's favorite communist. She is a communist, by the way. It is so frustrating. I don't even know what else to add. I'm glad, even if I don't always agree on whatever she's putting out, I'm glad that she presents such well-organized and structured arguments, because so many of these videos, whether or not they are actually, regardless of what side they're coming from, so many other content creators that make this stuff just throw out like, here is why I'm right and you're wrong, without any actual arguments. It's all emotion. Like you saw, she was pulling up all kinds of documents and has all those sources underneath. And it's like, well, if I agree with you, you are doing nothing but hurting my side, because you are not actually contributing to the argument. You're just shouting at people. And if I don't agree with you, well, you've done nothing to convince me, because you've presented no sources, no arguments. No real arguments. It's just all emotion. She puts out actual arguments, even if she is not very professional in how, and because of that, it's like you can follow her, you can see what's being said, and you can actually work off of that information and what she's presented to go, oh, either you have a point, I get it, or yeah, but I see what you're saying, but XYZ from sources from my side. That's how it really should be, instead of, well, like most of the news, interestingly enough, who just says, this is bad, and it's bad because I say it's bad. I don't think I have anything else to contribute for tonight. This ended up being quite a late run. I am ultimately glad that I still forced myself to squeeze in all three things I said I was going to, even if Baldur's Gate 3 got got such a short little segment in it all. It's all about keeping it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like having an argument without letting it just become a shouting match on emotions is far more constructive than just, well, what we're doing most of the time these days. Yeah, obviously in this case, Shu and I agree. I'll go through a look through our library, see if I can find videos that look like maybe it's something I won't agree with, that I won't pre-watch, but I will look at the subject and maybe look up stuff and go, okay, these are my counter sources to your sources. We'll have to see what's left. Like I said, I'm not on someone who subscribed. I should probably fix that. But I am someone who has ended up watching a fair chunk of her stuff, often because many of the VTubers and streamers and regular content creators who I watch do watch her stuff as part of the rotation. Because they're often people who also watch Brandon Herrera, Fat Electrician, and them. They tend, and Internet Historian, they tend to add her to the mix too. And I'm super late to the party for that, because as spicy as Fat Electrician could be, she is so much spicier. With all of that said, I guess I'm going to leave it down to you. I'm going to be looking into this, but I'd like to hear from you all. Is this content that you want to see more of? You know that I tend to want to be, be the one creating content by playing games and stuff, but this reaction stuff is currently my best performing overall stuff. So I might as well finally say, screw it, I'm going to lean into it. So, ShoeOnHead, everyone. The dark truth behind USAID. Would you guys like to see more? Let me know what you think. This is gonna be an interesting one for my channel, because this is really just saying, all right, deep end it is.